Welcome back, dear friends. One might wonder whether dietary habits also influence the carbon footprint and what the carbon footprint calculator should do. So, if you want to estimate the carbon footprint from the dietary habits, from the food which we consume, then I have selected a study which was done in United Kingdom for the typical values one can use in the carbon footprint calculator. Obviously, these values are to be used carefully because this is based on the study from United Kingdom and the food intake of different countries would differ, but it gives you an idea about how the carbon footprint is influenced from the dietary habit. So if you look at this data, you would find that the greenhouse gas emissions as expressed in the kilograms of carbon dioxide equivalents per day, that is kgs of CO2 equivalent per day, that increases as one moves towards a more animal protein diet. Okay, so if you find that typically if a family or if a person is a high meat eater, and by high meat eater, the study has quantified it as 100 grams per day of meat per day. If a person per person, if the food is consumed, meat is consumed, then we can attribute the carbon footprint per person to 7.19. Means in the when you design the carbon footprint calculator, you can ask what is the typical meat consumption by that person per day. Okay, and if he gives a number as say 100 or 110 gram per day, then one can put the carbon footprint calculation, carbon footprint for his food as 7.19. Similar figures are available for from the same study which I am citing now. For medium meat eater, its value can be taken as 5.63. And if the person is low on meat consumption, by low, the study says that if it is 50 grams per day, then one can use the carbon footprint per person as 4.67 per day. Okay, kgs of CO2 per day. So these are the values one can use. If the person is a fish eater instead of a meat eater, then the typical value could be lower or slightly lower, and it is 3.91. For vegetarians, it is found that the carbon footprint is lower, and it is 3.81. For vegans, the value is much more less, it is 2.89. So this could be one argument for shifting towards the plant-based diets. This why is this so? This is because typical studies decide the which are done on the carbon footprint for food, and they see that if 1 kilogram of beef is being produced, then it emits around 60 kilograms of greenhouse gases equivalent. And if instead you are producing peas, green peas, then the production process would emit hardly 1 kilogram of greenhouse gas emissions per kg, right? So overall, what we see is the animal-based foods, they tend to have a higher carbon footprint than the plant-based foods. Lamb and cheese both emit more than 20 kilograms of CO2 equivalent per kilogram of lamb meat or cheese also. Poultry and pork, uh, uh, they have a lower footprints, but still they tend to be higher than most plant-based foods. So they are 6 and 7 kgs of CO2 equivalent respectively. So if you want to reduce the emissions from our food, then the consumer has to move towards a plant-based diet. So when you design the calculator, we need to ask as to what is this food habits, and ask the consumer or ask the user to quantify his food consumption. Okay, so that would help you capture the carbon footprint from the food data. Thank you very much.